Demolition. To start your van build, you'll need to first remove the plastic wire loom and foam pieces from your cargo van. Pull the stock wiring harness down gently to remove the upper zip ties that go into the ceiling ribs. When you remove the light over the sliding door, make sure to replace the bolts after it's off. Pull down the cab headliner and remove the plugs by pulling them toward you. Also remove the clips from the back of the headliner with a screwdriver or needle nose pliers. This will allow the headliner to sit flat. The fan is best placed in one of the two stock locations, where the flange lays flat on the roof. Hold the fan in the middle of the flat spot and trace a line with your marker. Drill a hole in each of the four corners, and then cut to connect the holes so you finish with a 14 by 14 opening. When installing your roof vent, try and do most of your work from a ladder or from the edge of the van. You may sit or kneel on the edge of the van, but don't put all your weight in the middle of the van or it may dent. Be sure that the fan shroud is sitting flush on the roof. Carefully install the screws so that the flange compresses the beetle tape. Use beetle tape and Dicor lap sealant to make sure that your fan doesn't leak. Wiring. Run wiring to all of your appliances and fixtures. Make sure to label the wires at each end so that when you're done, you don't forget where they go to. You can install your wires before or after installation, but we find it's easier before. Pro tip: when you're running your wires, make sure that they're protected from all sharp edges so that it doesn't cut through the insulation. Use tape or zip ties to temporarily keep the wires out of the way while you do the rest of the build. Sound deadening is not required, but it is recommended, and it should be applied to at least 1/3 of the open body panels of your van. Many vans come with stock sound deadening, which may be enough, or you can go over it with more. Begin installing your paneling kit by installing the horizontal L-track. Starting on the driver's side, hold the L-track or a straight edge up to the wall and draw a line connecting all of the small 1/8 inch holes in the body of the van. Once you've done this, slip the L-track behind the B-pillar plastic and fasten it into place with some self-tapping screws. Do this with 2 screws per section to keep it in place while you mark the Rivnut locations. Installing your L-track will determine the fit of the whole rest of your kit. Take time to make sure that they're aligned with the 1/8 inch body holes. Mark each end hole and then every other hole in the track. If there's a void where you're trying to put a Rivnut, use the adjacent hole. Drill out each Rivnut hole for the L-track, being careful not to make the hole too large. If you drill a hole too large, the Rivnut won't bite the metal and you'll get what's called a spinner. Spinners are extremely hard to deal with. Prime the holes and then install Rivnuts in each one using a Rivnut tool. Bolt on the L-track, but do not over-tighten the bolts. Align the spacer strips with the hump at the bottom of the ceiling ribs on the wall. Use the self-tapping screws to fasten the spacers in place. At the back of the van, do not bring the spacer strips all the way to the D-pillar. It should end in the cavity just before the D-pillar, otherwise the wall will be pushed out. Install the aluminum angle along the top corners as close to the edge as possible using 3M VHB tape. Make sure any joints land on the ceiling ribs so that they're supported. The aluminum angle is only there to keep the ceiling panels from bowing. Do not install the aluminum angle over the sliding door or it will be visible. Hold each panel up to its final location and drop it into the L-track flange. This will show you which holes need to be drilled or reamed out. When installing your panels, make sure that the seam aligns with the seam in the C-pillar. Use a pen to mark the holes that need to be reamed out. Pop the V-pillar trim loose so that you can install the front wall panel. On the ceiling, hold up the panel to see which holes need to be reamed out. I like to get all of the drilling and metal shavings out of the way all at once, so mark all of your Rivnuts and cut all of your holes for windows and roof vents. Using a step bit, remount all of the marked holes, prime and install Rivnuts. Insulation. Thinsulate or Havelock wool are the only types of insulation that we recommend. Use a piece of cardboard or plywood and a nice sharp knife when cutting your insulation. Make sure to use spray adhesive when installing your insulation. Otherwise, you'll end up with a ball of insulation at the bottom of your wall. Fill all the cavities, but do not pack the insulation or it will lose R value. Don't forget to insulate over the headliner. This is where a lot of road noise comes from, and it's going to make your ride a lot more comfortable. Stuff insulation into all the nooks and crannies. It's a great place to use up scraps. Lay Sikaflex adhesive on the high ribs only, and only go as far as the first piece of plywood will reach. Spray foam into the low ribs so that they're half full. The foam expands 2 times, so be careful not to overfill. Lay down the first piece of subfloor and align it with the stock cab flooring. This may be easier with a second person. Carefully place the next piece of subfloor so that the groove aligns with the aluminum strip. Use a hammer and a piece of wood to gently tap the pieces together. Repeat these steps until the whole subfloor is in. Insert the aluminum strip into the next piece of subfloor and repeat the gluing and insulating process. Tap the flooring together to make sure that the seams close tight. You'll want to walk across the whole floor to make sure that it's all compressed. Have fun with it. Sweep out the van and make sure that the bottom of the flooring is clean. To make sure that your flooring stays aligned when installing it, it's best to lay the whole thing out, test fit, and then roll back 1/2 at a time and glue it individually. Peel back the front half of the flooring to start the gluing process. Trowel on the adhesive starting on the driver's side and work towards the slider door. Lay the flooring back down slowly onto the glue. Peel back the rear half of the flooring while standing on the glued half. Trowel on the glue and lay back the flooring. Be sure to wipe up any extra glue immediately so that it doesn't dry. Roll out the flooring starting with a line down the center, and then work from the center outward in a Christmas tree pattern. Wipe up any extra glue immediately with a damp paper towel. Leave the flooring to cure overnight before walking on it. Trim off any excess flooring with a utility knife. Test the floor trim to ensure that it fits. Some trimming may be required with a grinder. Pro tip: glue on a piece of leftover flooring so that it shows through the Alpine logo. Starting at the slider door, use the provided Sikaflex to glue on the floor trim, starting with the larger piece and then the smaller. Have denatured alcohol nearby for cleanup. Based on your exact floor placement, you may need to add or remove spacers for the small piece of floor trim. You can stack them up using Sikaflex. Use tape to hold the floor trim in place as it cures. We like to use gaffer's tape because it doesn't leave residue. You'll probably want to do this at the end of the day to let it cure overnight. Some vans don't come with a piece of flooring that goes right behind the driver and passenger seats. You should be able to order this from the nearest Mercedes dealer. Test fit the rear floor trim and grind if needed. Lay a small bead of Sikaflex in the inside corner and install. It's best to install all the floor trim as soon as the flooring is done. That way you don't have any wall panels to compete with when installing. Install the front ceiling panel first by slipping it over the headliner and aligning the holes in the panel with the Rivnuts that you've installed. Loosely install all of the panels until the ceiling is complete. If a bolt won't thread easily, use a step bit to remount the side of the hole. Loose set all the bolts before tightening them down. This allows you to adjust the ceiling panels and close any gaps that may be there. Check alignment of the panels and then tighten down all of the bolts with an Allen wrench or a drill set to low torque, usually settings 1 through 3. The kit comes with one short panel bolt. This bolt will go at the top right corner of the lower sliding door panel. Install wall panels starting at the front of your van. You may need to remove the D-ring and pop some of the clips loose to slip the panel behind the B-pillar. Carefully mark any penetrations, such as for wires or outlets. Carefully install any switches or outlets. When cutting new openings in the panel, it's best to use a sharp knife to score the fabric so that it doesn't fray. Then you can use a jigsaw or a multi-tool to cut out the opening. Once the opening is done, use super glue to make sure that it doesn't fray. Loosely install all the panels before tightening down. The D-pillar trim should snap into place, and the seam should align with the seam that goes from ceiling to wall. Be careful not to hit any double layers of metal where it'll be difficult to drill into. Insert the B-pillar trim. Align and fasten them with 3 equally spaced screws on each side. Fasten the headliner with 5 equally spaced button head screws into the panel above. There's a lot of information out there about electrical. Do your research, but we recommend to use 14 gauge running to the lights. If you have a long wheelbase van, you may want to run 12 gauge to avoid voltage drop. Double check your crimp connections to make sure that they're sturdy. You definitely don't want a connection to disconnect behind the wall. When using crimp and heat shrink connectors, always give each connector a little pull to make sure that it's nice and sturdy. When wiring up your fan, remember that when you have black and white wires, the black is positive, and when you have black and red wires, the red is positive. Don't make the common mistake of connecting the black to the black in this case. There's a lot of simple power solutions on the market, like the Blue Eddy, Goal Zero, and Jackery. These solutions are turnkey and are great for a weekender. To install the soft uppers, position the cabinet where you want it to go. Hold it in place and use a magnet to find where the bolt is on the other side. Once you do that, mark the location where you will drill your hole. Rear mid-door storage bags. Center the bag on the window and place one adhesive snap at a time until the bag is mounted. To install the rear bags, I like to start with the top 3 bolts. Once those are installed, it'll be easier to install the other bolts. L-Track has a variety of different accessories. They have a couple different types of studs that will work well for mounting your bed platform. You can also use these to mount cabinets and other accessories. The hide-and-go seat is a great way to seat 2 more people with seatbelts without sacrificing your space when you're camping. While it is possible to install solo, it's much easier with 2 people. Drill up with a pilot bit through the center of the hole, and then align the seat from the top. If the holes didn't quite hit, drill back down from the top with a pilot bit. Once you have them perfectly aligned, drill down with a 1/2 inch bit from the top. Use grade 8 bolts to mount the plate.